Conservative new media viewers and JLin fans around the world, what is up? It is me, PFE, Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert, We are here to discuss the Rockets' 123-120 overtime defeat tonight in game number 4 of the 2014 first-round playoff series against the Portland Trailblazers in Portland, Oregon. With the defeat, Houston now falls behind in the best-of-7 series 3-1, meaning that the Portland needs to win only one of the remaining 3 games, and they will be advancing to the second round, which, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is a disaster for this Houston team, with the high hopes that they had coming into this season, with the acquisition of Dwight Howard. I think I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. Everything's going wrong here. With the acquisition of Dwight Howard, with James Harden having a full training camp, being with the team, with the insertion of Patrick Beverley into the starting lineup, this was thought to be a serious title contender. And now the Rockets are on the brink of going out in the first round. And I know I told you guys about the article that was put out on ESPN the other day, basically kind of a preemptive article trying to say that the team supports coach Kevin McHale regardless of what happens in this series. And the Rockets have avoided a sweep, which is good. That looks a little bit better cosmetically. Still, going out in the first round is absolutely not what was thought about for this team, particularly when you have home court in the first round. So they did meet that goal. They wanted to get one of the first 4 seeds in the Western Conference, but getting home court doesn't mean much if you don't use it, in the sense that if you don't win your series, why even have home court? So we are on the precipice of a pretty much a disaster, is probably the easiest way to say it. And I've mentioned this in previous games, and game number 5 will take place in Houston, and that game will take place at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States on Wednesday, April 30th, 2014, meaning it will take place at 9:30 a.m. in Taipei, Taiwan, on Thursday, April 31st, I believe. Are there 31 days in April? I'm assuming that there are, and I hope that there are. If not, it would be on May 1st. It will take place on May 1st. I just glanced at my calendar really quickly. So that will take place on Thursday, May 1st, 2014 at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time in Taipei, Taiwan. Now, I am going to keep this video actually relatively short just because there's something else I have to do. I will try to come down to the comments, though, and talk about this some more. There's plenty to talk about. As you can see from the title, Jeremy didn't play at all in the overtime of this game. And in the final 17 minutes of the game, he only played 6 of them. And let me tell you this, because I know a whole bunch of people are going to blame Jeremy. Okay? Yes, the final sequence or close to it in regulation, Jeremy had a tough time. He got a rebound. He did have the ball stolen from him. Portland then missed a shot, and the rebound came down. There was a scramble. Jeremy had an opportunity to get it, but so did some other players. He wasn't able to get it. The ball swung around the perimeter for Portland, and they completed a 3-point shot that I believe was shot by Mo Williams, who I think was Jeremy's man. However, when there's a scramble for the ball like that, you have to help out your teammate. If your teammate's going for the ball, you need to pick up their man. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Jeremy was great in that sequence, because he wasn't. But did they lose the game because of that? No. When Jeremy came out of the game with, about 6.5 minutes in the fourth quarter, Houston was up by 5 points. And when he came back into the game, they were up by 3? Something like that. This isn't all on him. And when they went to overtime, they were tied. He didn't play at all in the overtime. Houston had the opportunity to win the game in overtime, and they didn't. And as I mentioned in the video description, right below the video player, the game was concluded essentially with Houston down by 3 points, Patrick Beverley dribbling the ball across half court, and then the ball was stolen from Patrick Beverley. And that was the end of the game. Had the ball not been stolen from Patrick Beverley in what was obviously a critical turnover, as was Jeremy's turnover, to be fair, then Houston might have been able to shoot a three-point shot and tie the game up. So Jeremy's sitting on the sidelines, and Houston goes down to defeat. And that's it. Like I said, you will hear people around the internet blaming Jeremy. This is not on Jeremy. This is not on Jeremy. Simple as that. When Portland shot that three-point shot and made it at the end, that only tied the game up. That didn't decide the game, and Jeremy didn't have a chance to decide the game because he didn't play in overtime. So that's that. Now, if you listen to this game before the game took place, right at the start of the game, the announcer said that Kevin McHale told them that Patrick Beverley is suffering from the flu, and they mentioned that his torn knee cartilage. Now, from what I read, my understanding was that the knee cart is healed now. I read something that it said something to the effect of a piece of the cartilage tore off, but now it's off, it's gone, and it's healed. So that's my understanding. I don't know if that's correct or not. We know Jeremy had injuries that he had to deal with, the chest contusion last playoff run. This is unfortunate. This is not what you want, but as we know with Jeremy, if you're out there playing, you're going to get scrutinized for how you perform. And to be quite honest with you, as I've said numerous times in these videos, Damian Lillard's doing what he wants to do, mostly, against Patrick and against Jeremy. So, again, what we heard about before the series took place and after Patrick suffered the knee injury was the Rockets wouldn't be able to mount a serious championship run without Patrick Beverley, because Patrick Beverley was needed in order to guard players like Damian Lillard. Well, Patrick Beverley's playing, and he's not stopping Damian Lillard. I gave you guys the numbers before or after the last game. I don't know the updated numbers, but Damian Lillard is doing quite well, and he did well in this game. And when I talk about the statistics, I will talk about the efficiency that Lillard had versus the efficiency Patrick had. So one of the reasons Houston is losing this series is because we're getting outplayed at the starting point guard position, considerably outplayed. And that's what it is. And again, I'm fair. And I like Patrick, but to give an honest analysis of this series, you have to say this. We are getting beaten down, basically, in most of this series at the starting point guard position. And that's what it is. That's it. I mean, it certainly happened tonight. And look, I hope Patrick heals up his knee. I hope he gets over the flu and is feeling good for the next game. Having the flu and trying to play through it is not a fun thing if you've ever tried to play through the flu or flu symptoms. You noticed at the end of this game, Mo Williams seemed to be talking to James Harden or something like this right at the end of the game. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to tell you something with that. And we've talked about this before. The Rockets are a team that likes to talk trash. We've talked about this in one of the recent videos. Parsons talking about how he's better than Batum. He's the best small forward in the series. You know, they want to play with swag. They're not. Guess what? If you play with swag and you talk trash, if you're clapping your hands like Patrick does and you're trying to irritate people, you're talking to Damian Lillard when someone else is shooting free throws. When you lose and they beat you, they're going to talk to you. And that's the downside of talking trash and playing with swag, because when you lose, you're going to hear about it. And we've talked about this with Patrick before. If you play hard and aggressive, people are going to play hard and aggressive against you. So if you want to, if the team wants to talk, then you're going to get talked to when you lose. And that's the way I interpreted what happened with Mo Williams at the end of the game. I love Houston. I love the team, but this is the way it is. This is keeping it real. If you talk, expect to get talked to when you get beat. And that's what happened tonight. Okay. Quickly, this was a game of two different halves. The Rockets pretty much did what they wanted to do in the first half. The Twin Towers, and when I say Twin Towers, I mean two big men playing at the same time. I didn't explain that in the last video, and I should have explained it. That means Omer Asik, who is a center, playing at the same time that Dwight Howard plays, and Dwight is also a center. That's what Twin Towers means. And in the history of the Rockets, they have done that before. There was a very famous combination of players, Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson, and that was the original Houston Twin Towers. So when I refer to Twin Towers, I mean that Omer Asik and Dwight Howard are playing at the same time. If you guys, most of you guys that have followed the team this year will know, Houston has played that alignment earlier in the year, and it didn't work very well. It really didn't work well, particularly on offense. But it has worked well against Portland. And the reason why it's worked well, there's a couple reasons, and I mentioned them in the last video. Number one, it helps out the rebounding. Portland's a great rebounding team. Number two, when you get rebounds, you get opportunities or second opportunities at making a basket, which is known as second chance points. Number three, they needed somebody big to guard LaMarcus Aldridge. And Omer did a very good job early in this game, the same way that he did a good job in the last game. So the first half of this game, Houston really did what they wanted to do. Troy Daniels, who was the co-hero of the first game along with Jeremy, he came in and was hitting three-point shots. Everything looked good. Houston was doing pretty much what they wanted to do, and it looked like it was going to be a long evening for the Portland Trailblazers. In the second half, though, it was a much different story. Portland came out with a lot more energy than they had in the first half. They came out with a lot more urgency. Now, I told you guys that I thought that Portland would come out with more energy at the start of this game, but they really didn't. I said that in the last video, in the Game 3 video. I was surprised by that. Houston was able to get the advantage on them, and Houston wants to play with the lead. I mean, every team does. I think Houston, because they're younger, in that less experience, they really want to play with the lead. I believe that James Harden said in comments that were relayed by the announcers at the start of the game that he wants to play quote-unquote downhill. What that means is playing in a groove, playing with a lead, playing aggressive. It's much easier to play aggressive when you have a lead. I give Portland a lot of credit because they kept their poise, even though they were behind most of this game. They were ahead very early, and then they did not get the lead until, very, very late in the game. But this is what I have said before about this team. I think Portland is more poised than Houston is. Although, look, give Houston credit. They played very well these last two games. They did. They played hard, and they played well tonight. They just couldn't quite close it out. And Portland, they did what they had to do when they had to do it. And that's pretty much what it came down to. I want to look now very quickly at my stats just to see my notes. If there's anything in particular I want to point out. Look, you heard Reggie Miller, the analyst for the game tonight. If you watched the game in the United States, or I don't know if the TNT feed was also broadcast around the world, you heard Reggie Miller mention that Damian Lillard was getting blow-bys against Patrick Beverley and the other Houston perimeter defenders. A blow-by means that the man you are guarding is going right past you. He is blowing by you, just going right around you with no problem. And this is what we were talking about at the start of the video, and I've mentioned it in various videos during this series. I believe Patrick had one good game, game 3, the last game, even though Damian Lillard was even better in that game. But in much of this series, Patrick really hasn't been able to slow down Damian Lillard much. He really hasn't. And that's what I was afraid was going to happen. And again, I don't want to just run Patrick into the ground. And I know that it's very easy because there's tons of people around the internet taking cheap shots at Jeremy, one of which I will mention in a bit. So it would be easy for me to sit here and just take cheap shots at Patrick. And I don't want to do that. I like Patrick. Jeremy likes Patrick. Patrick likes Jeremy. So I'm going to try to avoid that. The reason why we discuss Patrick the way that we do at all is because Patrick replaced Jeremy as the starter, number one. Number two, there's been a ridiculous myth-making expedition by the Houston media and people that cover the team to project Patrick as Superman. And I think a lot of that is done in an effort to diminish Jeremy. And it's very annoying. Most of you guys watching this video know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm just saying this for people that don't watch these videos or don't know what's being done. So that's number two. And number three, there's been this concept that Patrick's infinitely better than Jeremy, and that Patrick was going to provide the team with this incredible defensive force that was going to help propel Houston to a championship run, possibly. Well, that isn't happening. It's not happening. And this is why people are making excuses now for Patrick. And that's what it is. That's what it is. That's why Mikhail is telling the announcers Patrick has the flu. Patrick has a torn cartilage. Yeah, because it's not working out the way it was supposed to work out. Remember, Patrick was quote-unquote found in the playoffs last year when Jeremy got hurt. Jeremy suffered the chest contusion, and he was playing against Russell Westbrook. I don't remember a whole bunch of excuses being made for Jeremy. It was more along the lines of Jeremy just sucks. Jeremy's not any good. Well, if that's the standard, then it's easy to continue that standard now. I have no idea how bad Patrick feels. I know having the flu is not any fun. But the bottom line is that Damian Lillard is seriously hurting the Rockets. And nobody's slowing him down very much, honestly. He's just playing well. He's not playing perfect, but he's playing pretty well. And as we've talked about before, the idea that Patrick was this was kind of like a neutral matchup, where Patrick was going to do whatever, it's just not happening. That's the easiest way to say it. And I didn't expect it to happen, which I know you guys know how I feel about this, and I know many of you feel the same way. And again, it's nothing against Patrick. It's an honest assessment of Patrick's abilities. And there's been an inflation about what Patrick can supposedly do, and he's not doing it. And this is part of what makes me upset, because this ends up hurting Patrick. If you build a myth up about somebody and they can't live up to it, then you get mad at the person. But it's not fair, because you built the myth, not him. Now, Patrick said some stuff, and he's argued for being a all-defensive team or whatever. So, Patrick's bought into his own hype some. Okay, it happens. He's young. He's just trying to make his way in the league. Okay. But this series has been a reality check for the whole team, including Patrick. But it's been a reality check for the entire organization from top to bottom, as we talked about in the last couple of videos. And that's what I think. And Reggie Miller said the same thing. That's why he said, Damian Lillard's getting blow-bys on everybody, including Patrick Beverley. Now, as I mentioned, the Twin Towers did work really, really well early in this game, and Omer did a great job guarding LaMarcus Aldridge. He did, and as I mentioned in the previous video, LaMarcus Aldridge would drive by Omer Asik, and then right there waiting for him was Dwight Howard. It's very difficult to get shots off when you have 2 7-footers that are good defenders on the other team. Really difficult, particularly around the rim. And you saw Portland getting blocked, missing shots, because that's what happens. Omer Asik is a premier defender. We've given Omer a hard time here before because sometimes he doesn't always finish passes and would-be assist really well, but he is an outstanding defender and rebounder. And he's had a big impact on this series, and I'm sure that he will continue to do so as the series goes on. Again, I'm just skimming through my notes here. During the third quarter of this telecast in the United States on TNT, the announcer, who is Kevin Harlan, he referenced a Bleacher Report article by someone named Kevin Ding. Kevin Ding is a writer who primarily covers the Lakers, but he covers the whole NBA. Kevin Ding wrote an article basically saying that Houston was still in trouble in the series, even though they won Game 3. I didn't read the article. I don't know what was written in the article, but my guess would be that what was written in that article was very similar to what I said in the last video, which was Houston played almost as well as they could possibly play in that game. In terms of free throws, in terms of efficiency shooting, in terms of the threes, the percentages that they made, they played about as well as they possibly could play in that game. Now, to be fair, they played a little bit better tonight. And part of the reason why they played better was because Troy Daniels had what did he have, 19 points or 17 points? I mean, he went nuts. This guy's, again, all credit to Daryl Morey and for the Houston D-League team, which they said tonight that he was part of that team, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, I believe. They developed this player, and he's ready for the big stage. This guy has ice water in his veins, hitting every single shot that he took, almost. And he's a three-point machine. Credit to the organization for developing him, and credit to Daryl Morey for bringing him up right before the playoffs. He's been a huge benefit for the team. And like I said, we will give credit where it is due. We will criticize where it's due, but we will also give credit where it is due. And give credit to Daryl Morey. And again, give credit to Kevin McHale for going with the Twin Towers to slow down LaMarcus Aldridge and to help out on the rebounding, and for putting Troy Daniels in the rotation. You have to give credit to McHale for doing that. He did it. I told you in, Game 1 or Game 2, they went with Omer on LaMarcus, and it worked. Even though LaMarcus kept hitting shots, you could see Omer was bothering him. And these last 2 games, much more of an effect. Now, in the second half of this game, LaMarcus heated up big time. And when he gets into a groove like that, it's very difficult to stop. LaMarcus, I'm looking at the stats right now, LaMarcus was the most efficient player in this game for either team. He wasn't the most efficient per minute. That was actually Troy Daniels. But he was the most efficient overall. His efficiency number was 32 in 44 minutes played. That was the best on either team. Next most efficient was Dwight Howard with 29 efficiency units in 44 minutes. Bieber was good, but he faded down the stretch. Him and Nicholas Batum basically canceled each other out. And if you look at the stats in this game, because I'm looking at them, my efficiency measurements and everything, it's very even except at the starting point guard spot. And this is what I'm trying to say here. This is where the scales tilt towards Portland. Damian Lillard had Lillard had 23 points, 1 rebound, 8 assists. Patrick Beverley had 6 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Damian Lillard's efficiency was 22. Patrick Beverley's efficiency was 1. So that's a gigantic disparity. And when you look at many of the other positions, including Jeremy versus Mo Williams, Mo Williams' efficiency was 8. Jeremy's efficiency was 5. 3 units there. And Mo played 3 more minutes than did Jeremy. Now, Damian Lillard played 10 more minutes than Patrick, but you're talking about a 22-to-1 ratio of efficiency difference there, or 21 units. That's significant. That's the difference here. And so again, Patrick had the key turnover in overtime to seal the game, and Patrick's getting substantially outplayed by Damian Lillard in 3 of the 4 games of this series. And honestly, Damian was a lot better than him in the third game too, even though Patrick scored 16 points. And I give Patrick credit because what Patrick did in the third game, in my opinion, was he said, you know what, if Damian's going to score, then I'm going to score too. I'm going to make Damian Lillard work on defense. One of the ways that you stop a player is you make them work hard on defense. In other words, if they're good on offense, you make them work hard on defense and waste their energy. That's what Portland is doing against James Harden. Okay, James Harden, we're going to go right at you on defense because we know you can't play defense, and we're going to wear you down. And you saw that. You've seen it the entire series, and it's worked well for Portland. Wesley Matthews, who is the opposite shooting guard, was actually slightly more efficient than James was in this game. Wesley didn't play well last game, and I knew he'd play better tonight, and that's exactly what happened. So this is where we're at. Portland has the advantage. There's been 3 overtime games in this series, and Portland's won 2 of them. There's not a huge difference between the teams. They're relatively evenly matched. Houston is clearly a deeper team, and they're a bigger team, particularly when they go with the Twin Towers. But I think Portland is more poised. They have a little bit more skill with their shooting and at the key positions. At point guard, LaMarcus is a more skilled player than Omer or Dwight. Damian is more skilled than Patrick or Jeremy. And that's where you're seeing differences here. Nicholas and Bieber are relatively similar. Dwight's clearly better than Robin Lopez, although Robin Lopez is good. But it's a couple of these things, just little things in the point guard matchup is tilting this series towards Portland. And now Portland has home court advantage. They have maintained home court advantage. There's 3 more games left. 2 of those games, if it goes to 7 games, will be in Houston. 1 of them will be in Portland. My guess right now is that Portland wins this series either in the next game or they win it in Portland in Game 6. Could Houston come back? Yeah, which I didn't think they could. But I've seen enough now with the matchups of the Twin Towers and with Troy Daniels. Houston's capable of doing this. But tonight was a big, big loss. Houston had control of this game for almost the entire game. And they couldn't close it out. You now have a 3-1 series instead of a 2-2 series. It's a whole different thing. Portland only has to win 1 game of the next 3. And my guess is that they're going to do that. If I had to guess, I would say Game 6 in Portland. Obviously, Portland's capable of winning in Houston. They've already proven that. So, now, let me say quickly. I mentioned that someone put up a video of JLin missing the layup late in Game 3. Why was that done? Why was that done? And I'm not going to go into who did it or whatever. Just, it was done, right? That game also went into overtime. Let me tell you why that was done, in my opinion. The thought process in doing something like that is that you need somebody to blame. Jeremy missed a layup, and I think that if he made the layup, it would have put Houston ahead. And maybe the game doesn't go to overtime. Maybe. Maybe it still does. However, if you support Patrick Beverley, and Patrick Beverley got outplayed for the entire series, including in Game 3, how can you distract from that? How can you try to make it seem like it's not Patrick's fault, it's somebody else's fault? You put up a video of somebody missing a shot in a key situation, and then you can pretend it's all their fault, even though the defensive stopper hasn't stopped anybody. In this case, anybody being Damian Lillard. And so, had Houston lost that game, then Jeremy gets all the blame. That's why you put up a video like that. That's the thinking that goes on behind that. Okay? Fortunately for the team and for Jeremy, Jeremy was the hero of the game as I made the video about Game 3. He got the loose ball. He made the pass to Troy Daniels. He saw him open, made the pass, and Troy hit the shot. So all of a sudden, the attempt to make Jeremy the scapegoat goes away. That's how it works. That's how you do these types of things. You set it up so that you can try to make him the GOAT. You can't make him the GOAT tonight. I know people will try. They will put it all on him. It was because they hit the three-point shot. Again, the three-point shot at the end of regulation, or close to the end, it wasn't the end, tied the game. It did not make Houston lose. Houston still could have won, but they didn't win. And going further, Jeremy did not play any of the overtime, and the final meaningful play of the game with about whatever it was, 8 seconds left, was Patrick Beverley dribbling across half court and getting the ball stolen from him when Houston could have hit a three-point shot and tied the game, or if they were lucky, they could have hit a three-point shot and got fouled, and maybe they win the game. That had nothing to do with Jeremy. So, again, do not let these people bother you or distort things. You saw the game. The only difference between you and some of these other individuals is maybe they have a website and you don't. So what? Again, if you're a fan of Jeremy Lin, go out and tell the truth. Go out and tell Chris Webber, you're not being fair to Jeremy. And then watch Chris Webber be more nice to Jeremy in the next game. That's how it works. Again, that's why we make these videos. Try to tell the truth. And we're able to make them. And again, if Jeremy's bad, I'm going to say it. Jeremy didn't play great in this game. He didn't. He shot 1 of 6. He wasn't very good, but he got some nice assists. He got some rebounds. And he mostly played Mo Williams to a standstill, who is the backup point guard for Portland. That's not where this game was lost. It was not won or lost by the backup point guards. So that's the easiest way to say it. So, okay, that's about all I have to say in this video. I hope everybody's having a great night. We'll be here for Game 5, certainly. And look, I hope Houston wins. Houston's going to have a good chance to win Game 5. Obviously, they have to win it. They're going home. The crowd will be pumped up. Everybody knows it's a must-win, so you're going to get a maximum Houston effort. Portland's also going to come hard because they just want to close out the series. They want to get it over with. They don't want to have to go home and have pressure on them to win at home. They just want to go on the road and take care of business like they did in the first 2 games. So it's going to be interesting. And I expect another close game as pretty much all these games have been. So, okay, give us your comments below. I will come down to the comments. I'm just going to grab a bite to eat. Thumbs up, thumbs down in the video. We, of course, encourage you to come and join the Conservative New Media Facebook group, which you will find information for in the video description below the video player. That group has over 3,000 members, and it is growing all the time. Once again, I am PFE Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative New Media. We do strive to be the #1 Jeremy Lin YouTube fan channel, at least when we are around to make videos. I hope everybody's having a great night and a great day wherever you are around the world when you get a chance to watch this video. Andy, great to see you. Andy from JLin. Of course, I saw your message. I don't know, somehow one of my spam things, I had to approve it, but it's on there now. Great to see everybody, and it's great to talk with you guys. I hope everything's going well for everybody, wherever you are around the world when you watch this. It is currently 2:22 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, early on Monday, April 28th, I believe, which means it is 2:22 p.m. right now on Monday, April 28th, 2014, in Taipei, Taiwan. I can't remember our friend's name from Central Europe, and I don't know exactly what time it is in Central Europe. I believe it's 5 hours ahead, which would make it 7:23 a.m. or so in Central Europe. That's it for now. Take care. We will talk to you again soon.